I remember the sound more than the words. The click of her heels on the tile, the laughter that didn't belong in a workroom, the sharp pause that followed every time she spoke my name. When you've worked in an office long enough, you learn to read the air. The tension, the glances, the small shifts that mean someone's building a narrative. And lately I could feel one tightening around me. It started small. A spreadsheet, a late-night correction, a line item in a report that didn't match the data I'd sent. I fixed it quietly, sent a polite note. Hey, there's a small discrepancy in the forecast section. I think the totals got rounded twice, she replied 5 minutes later. Maybe next time you could check your own numbers before sending corrections. I let it go. We all have bad days, right? But then the pattern started. She'd forget to copy me on project updates, present my work as hers in meetings, and when I'd point it out, gently, carefully, she'd tilt her head, smile with that practiced office-perfect calm and say, "Oh, I didn't realize you felt ownership over that. It's teamwork, isn't it?" Her name was Sandra. Mid-30s, good at charming up, cruel when punching down. She knew how to read rooms, too, but she used it like a weapon. I kept my head down. It's easier that way. But one Tuesday, our manager, Tom, called a quick stand-up. "We've had some inconsistencies in the budget report," he said, scanning the room. "Looks like someone duplicated the expense logs for Q2. I already knew where this was going. Sandra spoke first, of course. "I tried to fix it," she said, hands folded, eyes wide, in practiced humility. "But I think Evan might have pulled the old sheet from the drive." All eyes turned. My stomach dropped. "That's not accurate," I said, steady. "The original file was updated last week. Tom cut me off. "Let's not debate this now. Just make sure it's fixed." It should have ended there. But as we left the meeting, Sandra walked past my desk, leaned in and whispered, "The manager put you in your place." I froze, not because it hurt, but because she said it loud enough for half the team to hear. Laughter broke out behind me, soft, nervous, but real. I went back to my desk, opened my inbox, and stared at the screen until the words blurred. For a second, I thought about sending an email, copying HR, laying everything out, but that's how you lose in offices like ours. Too fast, too loud. So I took a breath, opened the shared drive, and started going through every revision log, every timestamp, every file ID, quiet work, clean proof. By 6 p.m., I had a folder that told a different story. One where Sandra had overwritten my files 3 times, re-uploaded her version, and then exported my final draft with her name in the metadata. I saved everything, printed it out. Still, I didn't send it. Not yet. Because the next morning, something unexpected happened. Tom called me into his office. Sandra was already there, sitting upright, arms crossed, expression composed but proud. I knew that look. "Evan," Tom began, "we need to talk about yesterday. Sandra's expressed concern that you've been undermining her in meetings." I blinked. Undermining? She turned to me with that fake soft voice she used for performance reviews. "It's not personal, Evan. I just think sometimes your tone can come across dismissive." "My tone?" "Yeah," Tom added. "You can be a bit direct sometimes. Just try to be more collaborative." I wanted to laugh, the kind of laugh that sticks in your throat because it doesn't belong there. Instead, I nodded. "Sure, I'll keep that in mind." When I walked out, my coworker Jess caught my arm. She's the kind of person who whispers too loudly. "Oof," she said. "The manager really put you in your place, huh?" The same words, the same grin Sandra had worn. That night, I sat in my car long after the parking lot emptied. Windows fogged, engine off, just the faint hum of fluorescent lights in the building. And I kept replaying the scene, the smug tilt of Sandra's head, the little satisfied look on Tom's face, the ripple of laughter that followed. I'd spent 2 years in that department, working late, picking up the pieces everyone else dropped. I wasn't trying to be the hero. I just wanted to do things right. But that was the night I realized, in offices like ours, being right doesn't save you. Being quiet does, so I stayed quiet. I cleaned the data. I made sure every number lined up. Every note was time-stamped. Every decision traceable. Because something told me that story wasn't over, and I was right. But that was just the beginning. The next morning, the air in the office felt heavier, not dramatic, just dense, like the kind of stillness before a storm you don't yet see. Sandra was already at her desk when I walked in. She was laughing with two others from marketing, voice just loud enough to carry across the open floor. "Oh, look who's early. Maybe he's trying to fix those formulas before they fix him." The laughter that followed wasn't cruel, not exactly, but it was complicit. That kind of laughter that tells you people have already picked sides. I sat down, opened my laptop, and didn't say a word. The screen came alive with unread emails. Some from Tom, a few from project leads, one from HR with a meeting invite for Friday morning. The subject line, Departmental Compliance Review. That's when I knew something was moving. At noon, during lunch, I sat with my usual crew, Jess and a quiet analyst named Martin. Jess leaned forward, whispering like it was gossip, not news. "Sandra said you messed up the vendor budgets again. Tom's pissed." I just nodded. "Interesting," I said, "since I haven't touched the vendor budgets in 3 weeks." Martin glanced up from his sandwich. "Then who exactly?" I kept my tone calm. "That's what I'm going to find out." They exchanged a look, but didn't press. In places like ours, curiosity was a liability. That night, I stayed late. The cleaning crew came and went. The lights dimmed, and I was still there. Buried in audit logs, each line of code and time entry painted a clearer picture. Sandra hadn't just made mistakes. She'd covered them by rolling back edits, deleting logs and shifting folder permissions so the blame looked like mine. She was smart, I'll give her that. But not smarter than a timestamp. I exported everything, file histories, access logs, even email headers. I wasn't angry anymore, just steady, focused. I knew what she'd done, and I knew what it would cost her if I played it right. But something else caught my eye. An access tag. CFO Admin View. Someone from the executive suite had looked at our department files. Not just once, multiple times in the past week. The CFO's team rarely touched mid-level project logs unless there was an audit. Something bigger was happening. The next morning, Tom called another meeting. Sandra led it. Of course she did. "All right, everyone," she began with that fake team player tone. "We need to discuss accountability moving forward." Her slides were clean, polished, full of buzzwords, transparency, ownership, collaboration. I watched as she flipped through them like a preacher who'd written her own gospel. Halfway through, she stopped on a slide labeled Team Gaps. Under it, my name. I didn't move. Tom cleared his throat. "Sandra and I have been reviewing last quarter's numbers," he said. "Evan, we appreciate your work, but there have been all concerns about communication and consistency." I looked at him, then at her. "Concerns," I repeated. "From who?" She smiled. "It's not about who, Evan. It's about improving the process." My hands were steady. My pulse wasn't. "So the process now includes putting employee names on slides?" Tom shifted uncomfortably. "Let's not make this personal." I nodded slowly. "You're right," I said, standing up. "Let's make it professional." I picked up my folder, the one I'd printed 2 nights ago, and placed it on the table. "This is the file history from the last quarter. It shows who edited what, when, and from which account. I think you'll find it clarifying." Sandra's smile faltered for the first time. "Evan, that's not appropriate to—" "It's transparent," I interrupted. "Isn't that the word you used?" Tom frowned. "This isn't the place." But then the conference room door opened. A woman in a gray suit stepped in. Calm, deliberate, like someone who didn't need introductions. The kind of presence that makes the room straighten up before the mind even catches up. "Actually," she said, voice even, "this is exactly the place. It was Karen Liu, the CFO." Every chair went still. Sandra froze halfway through a breath. Tom swallowed audibly. Karen set a tablet on the table. "I've been reviewing internal audit flags for your department. she said, eyes moving between them. There are irregularities in file management, misattributed edits, and unexplained data deletions. Does anyone want to explain that before I do? The silence stretched. Sandra tried first. It's a misunderstanding. Karen cut her off with one raised finger. I'm not interested in rehearsed misunderstandings. I'm interested in truth, and I already have it. She turned her tablet toward the room. On it, access logs, screen captures, timestamps. My folder mirrored hers exactly. Karen's gaze flicked to me. You've been cleaning up a mess that isn't yours, she said simply. I appreciate that. Sandra looked pale. Tom looked smaller. Karen continued, voice sharp but calm. There will be an internal review effective immediately. Until then, Ms. Holloway, she looked directly at Sandra, you're on administrative leave. Mr. Dalton, a glance at Tom, you'll report directly to me. Then to me, Mr. Reeves, stay after this meeting. And then she left, just like that. Sandra didn't look at me as she packed her things. Tom tried to mutter something about procedure, but the words barely came out. When the room emptied, I sat back down, exhaled for the first time in hours, and looked at the empty slide that still glowed on the wall. Team gaps. I smiled faintly. There were going to be some. I didn't know it yet, but that decision would cost them everything. When the CFO told me to stay, the room emptied faster than I've ever seen in my life. Chairs scraped, papers shuffled. The smell of cheap perfume and fear lingered. I could hear Sandra's heels fading down the hall, fast, sharp, like she was trying to outrun gravity. Karen Lou closed the door behind her. She didn't sit right away. She just looked at me for a long moment and then said quietly, You handled that better than most. I wasn't sure what I was handling, I said. You will be, she replied, taking a seat across from me. This department's been on my radar for weeks. Misreported figures, budget discrepancies, and a disturbing amount of ego. You didn't create the problem, but you've been standing in the middle of it. I nodded, unsure if it was praise or warning. So, what happens now? She folded her hands. Now we clean house. The phrase hit harder than I expected. Karen didn't just mean Sandra or Tom. She meant the whole structure. The hierarchy built on whispers, alliances, and unspoken deals. The kind that makes good people small and loud ones powerful. For the next few days, I barely spoke. HR and internal audit took over our floor. They moved like quiet surgeons, methodical, efficient, pulling files, scanning devices, calling people into small rooms with closed doors. You could tell who was guilty by how loudly they pretended not to care. By Thursday, Sandra's nameplate was gone. Her desk sat empty, except for a coffee mug that read, Boss Energy. Someone had left it there like a tombstone. Tom avoided me. He started holding meetings behind closed doors, except now those doors often opened mid-sentence to reveal Karen's assistant with a polite, We'll need you in Conference B. Rumors spread fast, but not as fast as fear. People stopped talking in the kitchen. Conversations died the second I walked in. Not out of malice, out of caution. I had become radioactive, the guy who had the CFO's ear. But I wasn't gloating. I didn't feel powerful. I felt tired. That Friday morning, I got a calendar invite. CFO debrief, 11 Napas a.m. When I walked into the conference room, Karen was there with a man I didn't know. Early 50s, stern, calm. She introduced him as Marcus, head of corporate audit. He smiled politely, then slid a folder across the table. You probably don't realize how much you helped us, he said. Your documentation, the logs, the reports, they filled in gaps we couldn't access from above. I wasn't trying to help anyone, I said. I just wanted to survive. That's how integrity usually starts, he said. Karen leaned back. Sandra fabricated data on 3 client accounts. Tom approved her quarterly reports without verification. Both are being terminated. HR will manage the details. I just sat there. No satisfaction, no joy. Just the quiet hum of justice moving at its own pace. Karen studied me. You know what I like about how you handled this? I shook my head. You didn't fight for attention, she said. You fought for accuracy. The company needs more of that. I didn't know what to say. She continued. We'll be restructuring the team. A new reporting line, new oversight. I'll need someone to lead the interim group. Someone who's proven they can work under pressure and still think straight. It took me a second to understand what she meant. You want me to... Yes, she said. Acting operations lead, starting Monday. I stared at her, trying to read her face for a punchline that never came. What about Tom? Tom will be consulting from home for the foreseeable future, she said, and there was steel under her tone. Marcus closed his folder. You earned this, he said simply, but don't mistake it for luck. You earned it by staying calm when everyone else panicked. The meeting ended there. 10 minutes. That's all it took for months of chaos to collapse into a single quiet decision. When I walked out, people were watching. You can tell when a story shifts. It's in the way people look at you differently, like they're trying to recalculate their opinion before they speak. Jess caught up with me by the elevators. Hey, she said, almost whispering, is it true they're both out? I didn't answer directly. You'll get an email, I said. And you? Still here, she smiled faintly. Good, you deserve that. That night I left the office late again, not because I had to, but because I needed to see it. The quiet, the absence. Sandra's desk cleaned out, Tom's office dark, the hallway lights humming like they were exhaling too. For the first time in weeks, I let myself feel something that wasn't anger or fear, relief, and beneath it, something sharper. Not revenge, but clarity. People think karma is some mystical balance, but it's not. It's just the moment truth walks into the room and refuses to leave. As I shut off my monitor and grabbed my jacket, I glanced at the reflection in the window. Tired, steady, still standing. That night, I stopped being the hero. I didn't need to be. I just needed to be the last one left standing when the noise stopped. Monday felt different. Not louder, not busier, just cleaner. The kind of quiet that comes when something false has finally been scraped away. The desks were rearranged over the weekend. HR had moved Sandra's old workspace to storage. Tom's nameplate was gone, replaced by a smaller one that read, Acting Operations Lead, E. Reeves. I stared at it for a long time, not out of pride, out of disbelief. 2 months ago, I was just another name in a spreadsheet. Now, people paused when I walked by, not out of fear, just awareness. The same coworkers who once laughed when Sandra mocked me now nodded with careful respect. I didn't hold it against them. Most people don't choose sides in offices like ours. They follow the wind. The first all-hands meeting under my lead was short. No speeches, no new vision, just direction. From now on, I said, we document everything. No private edits, no backdoor uploads. If you've got an issue, we solve it in daylight. Transparency isn't optional. It's policy. A few nervous chuckles. Mostly silence. But I saw it in their faces. Relief. People crave order when they've lived too long under chaos. Later that afternoon, I got a message from Karen. CFO, stop by when you get a moment. Her office was on the top floor, where the air felt cooler and the carpet swallowed sound. She looked up as I entered, motioned to a seat. How's the first day of leadership? Strange? I said honestly. Feels quiet. That's what peace sounds like, she replied with a faint smile. Don't get too comfortable. Quiet doesn't last. She leaned forward. You did something rare, Evan. You didn't just expose a problem. You rebuilt trust. The board noticed. Keep doing what you're doing. Thank you, I said, but my voice felt small against the weight of it. Before I left, she added one last thing. Tom reached out. He wanted me to tell you. He was wrong. I didn't know how to respond. Forgiveness wasn't the point. It never had been. That night, I walked out into the parking lot long after dark. The building glowed behind me, quiet and distant, like something that belonged to another version of me. I got in my car, turned off the radio, and just sat there. No noise, no tension, just a pulse of calm under my ribs. I thought about Sandra, about the smirk, the line that started it all. The manager put you in your place. I wondered if she still believed that. Maybe she did. Maybe she told herself a story where I was the villain, the silent threat who ruined her career. That's fine. People rewrite history when it hurts too much to tell it straight. But I didn't need revenge. Not anymore. The truth had already done the work. In the weeks that followed, things leveled out. Deadlines met, meetings shortened, laughter returned. The real kind, not the brittle one that breaks under stress. Jess brought donuts on Fridays again. Martin played music low while coding. The office started to feel like a place you could breathe in. I didn't post about the promotion, didn't celebrate, didn't need to. Some wins don't need witnesses. One evening, as I was leaving, Karen passed by and said, "You know, people are watching how you handle this. Don't forget that." "I won't," I said. But what I didn't tell her was that I wasn't doing this for anyone. I was doing it because I'd learned what happens when you let other people define your place. So I made a quiet rule for myself. Never fight for a title. Fight for your peace. Weeks turned into months. The storm that once consumed the floor became just another story, told in whispers, distorted, half true. People moved on. They always do. And I did too. Now, when I think back to that day, to Sandra's smirk, the laughter, the sting of being humiliated in front of everyone, I don't feel anger. I feel something steadier. Perspective. Because sometimes the moment someone puts you in your place is the moment they show you exactly where you don't belong anymore. I look around my office now, quiet, orderly, light spilling across the desks, and for the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. When someone tries to put you in your place, they never realize you were already standing where you belong.